Hi Gemini, Sun, Moon and Rising signs, welcome. This is your August 2026 forecast. If you feel called to watch this reading but you don't have any Gemini placements, then you're more than welcome to still stay and watch. There's probably a message in this video that you're meant to hear. I'm going to start with a very quick overview of what's happening astrologically in August, and then we'll move into the tarot questions just to see how these energies may be affecting you personally. As always, please remember this is a collective reading, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Let's get straight into it. Alright, August is shaping up to be a really important month for Gemini, particularly around communication, your mindset, and the conversations that have the power to shift your life in unexpected ways. The first half of the month has a strong focus on your voice. You may find yourself having important conversations, learning something new, teaching others, networking, traveling locally, or finally saying something that you've been holding back. If you've been sitting on an idea or questioning whether to put yourself out there, this month really encourages you to trust your voice. Venus also moves into Libra early in the month, bringing some lighter energy. After any heaviness you've been carrying recently, this transit encourages more joy, creativity, and connection. For some of you, this could bring new romantic opportunities, while for others, it simply reminds you to make space for the things that genuinely make you happy. Your ruling planet Mercury also changes signs this month, which means you'll likely feel the shift quite strongly. Your confidence in expressing yourself grows, making this an excellent time for writing, studying, creating content, speaking your truth, or having conversations you've been avoiding. Around the middle of the month, we have a solar eclipse in Leo. Eclipses often speed things up, and for Gemini, this one may bring unexpected news, opportunities, conversations, or new beginnings that end up taking you in a direction you hadn't anticipated. Even something that seems small at first could end up becoming much bigger over the coming months. As we move into the second half of August, the focus begins shifting towards home, family, and your emotional foundations. You may feel called to slow down, spend more time at home, or think about what truly makes you feel secure and supported. Then we finish the month with a lunar eclipse in Pisces, which shines a light on your career, life direction, and the public image. Something may reach a point of completion, or you may gain clarity around where you're heading next professionally. It feels like the month begins with conversations and ideas, but ends with a much clearer sense of purpose. Overall, the energy for Gemini throughout August is about finding your voice and trusting that your words carry more power than you realize. The right conversation, the right opportunity, or simply speaking your truth at the right moment has the potential to completely change your path. With that said, let's jump into the tarot and see what August has in store for you. Alright Gemini, let's have a look at the identity you're leaving behind as you move through August. Straight away, this feels like you're stepping into a completely new chapter of your life. The Empress tells me that many of you are leaving behind a version of yourself that constantly questioned your worth or looked outside of yourself for validation. The Empress knows her value. She doesn't have to prove herself, chase approval, or convince people that she's enough. She simply is. August feels like the beginning of embodying that energy. Then we have the Ace of Swords, and this is where the breakthrough comes in. This card is mental clarity, truth, new perspectives, and honest communication. Some of you are finally seeing a situation for what it really is, while others are simply beginning to trust your own voice more than you have in the past. It's almost like the mental fog begins lifting this month, and because of that, your decisions become much clearer. I also love seeing this after the Empress because it tells me this confidence isn't coming from ego, it's coming from self-awareness. You're learning that speaking your truth doesn't make you difficult, it simply makes you authentic. Then we finish with the Fool, which I think ties this together beautifully. The identity you're leaving behind is someone who was perhaps overthinking every next step, waiting until everything felt perfectly planned before taking action. The Fool says, you don't need every answer before you begin. There's excitement around August, there's fresh energy, new experiences, new people for some of you, new opportunities that probably weren't even on your radar a few months ago. It almost feels like the universe is saying, you've learned enough from that chapter, it's time to stop carrying it with you. So overall, the identity you're leaving behind is someone who doubted themselves, second-guessed their own voice, and hesitated before taking the leap. The version of you emerging throughout August feels much more confident, much more authentic, and much more willing to trust where life is leading. Now, let's see what this month's Leo Solar Eclipse is actually beginning for you, because eclipses often mark powerful new chapters, and I'm curious to see where this fresh energy is taking you. I had to move my little offering bowl to my deities out of the way because I almost set a card on fire. Love that for me. Okay, so straight away, this feels like an eclipse that's helping you move through disappointment and into long-term stability. We have the Five of Cups, and this tells me that many of you are entering August still carrying something from your past. This could be regret, grief, disappointment, or simply focusing on what didn't work out the way you'd hoped. For some of you, this may be a relationship. For others, it could be a job, an opportunity, or even a version of your life that you thought would look different by now. The important thing here is that the Five of Cups isn't saying you're going to stay here. It's showing me where you're beginning from, not where you're ending up. Then we move into the King of Pentacles, and this is a huge shift in energy. The King of Pentacles is stable, he's secure, he knows exactly where he's going. This feels like you're beginning to build something with real longevity. For some of you, this could absolutely be career or finances improving, but I also feel it's about your relationship with yourself becoming much more grounded. Instead of reacting emotionally to every setback, you're beginning to ask, what can I actually build from here? Then we have the Ten of Pentacles, and honestly, this is beautiful to see. This is long-term success, security, legacy, family, abundance, and creating something that lasts. What's interesting is that the eclipse doesn't seem to be bringing you something temporary. It feels like it's beginning a chapter that has the potential to support you for years to come. It's almost like something has to fall away emotionally first before you're able to receive something much more aligned. Then we finish with the Nine of Swords. Now, at first glance, you might think, well, that's a strange way to end. But I actually see this as your mind catching up to the changes that are happening. Your external reality is beginning to stabilize, but your nervous system is still expecting disappointment. It's almost like life is saying, good things are here, while your mind is still asking, but what if it all falls apart again? That's what I think this eclipse is really helping you heal. It's not just changing your circumstances, it's changing the beliefs that were created by past disappointments. So overall, Gemini, this Leo solar eclipse feels like the beginning of moving away from loss and towards genuine stability. It won't happen overnight, but the trajectory is incredibly positive. The challenge is allowing yourself to believe that this new chapter can actually be different from the past. Now, let's see what area of communication, learning, or creativity begins expanding for you throughout August. Okay, straight away, I feel like this is saying your growth comes through other people rather than trying to do everything on your own. So we start with the Three of Pentacles, which is all about collaboration, learning, sharing ideas, and building something alongside others. Some of you could be studying, teaching, networking, or finding yourselves in conversations that open doors you couldn't have opened alone. Considering Gemini's astrology this month is so heavily focused on communication, I really like seeing this card here. It tells me your words matter, your ideas matter, and the people you're speaking with may play a much bigger role in your life, in your future, than you realize right now. Then we have the Nine of Wands again. This tells me that although opportunities are expanding, there's still a part of you that's hesitant. It's almost like you've been through enough disappointments that your first instinct is to keep your guard up. You may find yourself thinking, this looks promising, but what if it ends the same way everything else has? The Nine of Wands reminds you that your past has given you wisdom, but it doesn't have to become a wall that stops new opportunities from reaching you. Then we have the Devil, and this one almost felt like it wasn't sure whether it wanted to come out, which is interesting in itself. To me, that uncertainty says this isn't necessarily an external influence. It feels much more like an internal pattern that's surfacing because it's ready to be looked at. The devil often represents fear, limiting beliefs, unhealthy attachments, or the stories we tell ourselves that keep us stuck. So for some of you, this could be fear of being seen or fear of speaking up. For others, it could be overthinking, imposter syndrome, or believing you have to be perfect before you share your ideas with the world. It's almost like every time an opportunity begins opening, this little voice appears saying, "Are you sure you're good enough?" But that's exactly why this is coming up. It's not here to stop your expansion. It's here to show you what has been stopping it. The beautiful thing is that the devil doesn't have the final say. The Three of Pentacles is the strongest energy in this spread. Your expansion comes through connection, collaboration, and allowing yourself to be seen, even if part of you feels vulnerable doing it. So overall, Gemini, your communication and creativity absolutely are expanding throughout August. The opportunities are here. The only real question is whether you'll let your old fears convince you you're not ready, or whether you'll trust that you're already far more capable than you think. Now, let's have a look at the truth you need to see about a relationship or an important connection in your life. Alright, honestly, this feels pretty clear. The truth may be that a cycle has already reached its natural ending, even if emotionally you're still processing it. The world is completion. It's the end of a chapter, the closing of a cycle, and the understanding that something may have already taught you everything it was meant to teach you. That doesn't necessarily mean every Gemini watching is completely cutting someone out of their life, but it does suggest that the relationship cannot continue in exactly the same form it existed in before. Something has to change. You have changed. And the connection may now need to evolve, be released, or be viewed from a completely different perspective. Then we have the Six of Swords, which is the energy of moving away from turbulence and towards something calmer. This feels like choosing peace, even when that choice is emotionally difficult. For some of you, the truth is that you've been trying to keep a connection alive because of what it once was, rather than what it currently is. You may still see the potential, the history, or the version of this person that you hoped they would become. But the Six of Swords asks whether staying emotionally attached is helping you heal or keeping you connected to the very pain you're trying to move beyond. Then we finish with the Five of Cups. So there is still grief here. There may be disappointment around how something unfolded, what was lost, or what you never received from this person. But I don't feel like the message is to dismiss those emotions or pretend you don't care. You're allowed to grieve what you wanted this connection to become. But the Five of Cups also reminds us that not everything has been lost. There is still love around you. There are still connections available to you. There is still life waiting beyond this disappointment. So the truth Gemini may need to see is that closure does not always come from the other person explaining themselves, apologizing, or finally becoming who you needed them to be. Sometimes closure comes from accepting that the cycle has completed and choosing to carry yourself forward. This feels less like rejection and more like release. You may be moving away from something that once meant a great deal to you, but you're also moving towards emotional peace, clearer boundaries, and relationships that no longer leave you questioning where you stand. Now let's look at what may be happening around your home, family, or emotional foundations throughout August. This actually feels like a quite significant transition. The Queen of Wands tells me that you're stepping into a much more confident position within your home or family life. Some of you may naturally be taking on more responsibility or becoming the person others look to for guidance. Others may simply be finding your confidence again after feeling emotionally drained. There's a sense of reclaiming your power here. But then we have the Eight of Swords, which tells me that despite this confidence, your mind may still be creating limitations that no longer reflect your reality. For some of you, this could be worrying about a change around your living situation, family dynamics, or emotional security. You may feel trapped. What if I make the wrong decision? What if things don't work out? What if I can't move forward? But the interesting thing about the Eight of Swords is that very often the prison exists more in our perception than in reality. The options are there. The path forward is there. It's fear that's making it feel impossible. Then we finish with the Six of Swords, and I absolutely love seeing this after the Eight of Swords because it tells me you're not staying stuck. The Six of Swords is one of the tarot's clearest cards for moving into calmer waters. This could literally be a move for some Geminis, a shift within the family, resolving conflict, or simply reaching a place internally where your home finally begins to feel peaceful again. Because remember, your astrology this month naturally shifts towards home and emotional foundations in the second half of August. These cards reflect that beautifully. It feels like you're leaving behind mental overwhelm and moving towards something that feels much more stable and supportive. So overall, Gemini, whatever has been weighing on your mind around home, family, or your emotional security doesn't feel permanent. The confidence is already there. The fear is simply catching up. And by the end of this process, it feels like you're choosing peace over staying where you've outgrown. Next, let's see what the Pisces Lunar Eclipse is asking you to release as August comes to a close. Okay, the first thing I notice is we now have two nines in this spread. We've got the Nine of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles. I love numerology, so when numbers repeat, I always take a deeper look. Nines represent completion, wisdom, and the end of a cycle. They often appear when you're preparing to leave one chapter behind so something more aligned can begin. We also saw the Nine of Swords earlier in the reading, and whenever a card repeats, I always pay attention because Spirit is really underlining the message. The Nine of Swords tells me this eclipse is asking you to release anxiety, overthinking, and the habit of carrying tomorrow's problems before they've even arrived. For some of you, you've been living in your head for so long that it's become your normal. You replay conversations, you imagine worst-case scenarios, you convince yourself something is going to go wrong before you've even given it the chance to go right. The eclipse is saying you don't have to carry that anymore. Then we have the Five of Wands. Fives in tarot represent change, disruption, and growth through discomfort. They're rarely comfortable cards, but they're incredibly important because they show us what needs to shift. This card can absolutely speak about external conflict, disagreements, or competing opinions, but honestly, alongside the Nine of Swords, I feel this is much more about internal conflict. Part of you wants to move forward, another part of you keeps pulling you back into fear. It's almost like there's a battle between the version of yourself that trusts life and the version of yourself that's trying to protect itself from getting hurt again. Then we finish with the Nine of Pentacles. And this feels like the reward waiting on the other side of that inner work. The Nine of Pentacles is confidence, it's independence, it's trusting yourself. It's recognizing everything you've built and finally allowing yourself to enjoy it instead of constantly worrying that it's going to disappear. This card says, look how far you've already come. Don't let fear convince you you're still the person you used to be. So overall, this Pisces lunar eclipse feels deeply internal. It's asking you to release the mental patterns that keep you small, the inner conflict that keeps you second guessing yourself, and the anxiety that's been following you even when life is actually beginning to improve. Because once you let those patterns go, you step into the energy of the Nine of Pentacles, someone who knows their worth, enjoys what they've created, and no longer feels the need to constantly look over their shoulder. Let's see what can become stable for you after August as all of these shifts begin settling into place. Okay, I actually really like this progression. The Five of Swords tells me that stability first comes through deciding what is and what isn't worth your energy. Fives in tarot represent change. We've now seen two fives in this reading. That's significant because they often appear when life is asking us to stop operating from old patterns so we can move into something new. The Five of Swords can sometimes represent conflict with other people, but more often than not, it's about the battles we keep fighting that don't actually move us forward. This could be trying to prove yourself to people who have already made up their minds. It could be constantly defending your decisions, Or it could even be arguing with yourself, replaying old situations and wishing they had gone differently. August seems to be teaching you that not every battle deserves your attention. Sometimes your peace is worth more than being right. Then we move into the Ten of Pentacles, and this is such a beautiful contrast. Once you stop pouring your energy into those unnecessary battles, there's room for something much more solid to grow. The Ten of Pentacles is long-term stability, security, and building a life that has real substance. For some of you, this could absolutely show improvement in finances, career, or your home life. For others, it's about finally feeling like you're creating a future that aligns with who you've become rather than who you used to be. I also find it interesting that we saw the Ten of Pentacles earlier in the reading around the Leo Solar Eclipse. And here it is again. This repeated card is really Spirit emphasizing the message. This tells me that long-term stability isn't just a possibility for you. It feels like one of the major themes unfolding over the coming months. Then we finish with the Page of Pentacles. I love this as the final card because it reminds us that lasting stability doesn't always arrive through one huge breakthrough. Sometimes it begins with one conversation, one opportunity, one application, one investment in yourself, one small step that's easy to overlook in the moment but grows into something much bigger over time. The Page of Pentacles is the student. They're curious, grounded, and willing to build something slowly instead of chasing instant results. So overall, Gemini, what becomes stable after August feels very tangible. You're moving away from conflict, overthinking, and feeling like you constantly have to fight for your place, and instead, you're beginning to build something that has genuine longevity. Whether that's your career, your finances, your home, or simply your confidence, it feels like August lays the foundation, and what follows is something that continues to grow long after the month itself has ended. Let's pull your final advice and see the best way to navigate all these changes throughout August. Okay, and you got brave, don't self-sabotage. Honestly, I don't think Spirit could have chosen a more fitting card to end this reading. Throughout this spread, we've seen the Nine of Swords twice, we've seen multiple fives, we've seen the Eight of Swords, and now we finish with don't self-sabotage. There's a very clear thread running through this entire reading. The opportunities are there. The stability is there. The new chapter is there. The only thing that has the potential to hold you back is the story you tell yourself about whether you're ready to receive it. Self-sabotage doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it looks like overthinking until the opportunity passes. Sometimes it looks like talking yourself out of applying for something because you assume you'll be rejected. Sometimes it looks like settling for less than you deserve because it's familiar, or convincing yourself you're not experienced enough, talented enough, or worthy enough before you've given yourself the chance. This card is asking you to be brave enough to choose differently, brave enough to trust your own voice, brave enough to walk away from what you've outgrown, brave enough to believe that your past does not have to dictate your future. Because if there is one thing this reading has shown me, Gemini, it's that August is opening doors. The question isn't whether those doors are there. The question is whether you'll have the courage to walk through them. So my advice to you this month is this. When fear tells you to stay small, choose courage. When anxiety tells you to wait, ask yourself whether you're waiting because the timing isn't right or because you're afraid of what could happen if things actually work out. This month isn't asking you to have all the answers. It's simply asking you to take the next step. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, Gemini. If this reading resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see future monthly forecasts. And I hope August brings you everything this new chapter has been preparing you for. I'll see you in the next one.